Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to our live stream class session again. This is week 3 of our entrepreneurship class out of 4 classes for the second half. As you can see, I put on today, we're going to discuss a bit about pitch decks. Pitch decks is just a fancy startup name for PowerPoint presentations. And I wrote Presso because a lot of it as Presso. So at various point of your business entrepreneur life, you'll be making presentations, and most of these presentations are done on PowerPoint. Of course, you can do, I think there's a couple programs on the Apple platform you can use to do presentations. There's also Prezi, which is a kind of slick and animated cool tool to do it online, which I've used in the past. But PowerPoint's tried and true is the you can do presentations by using PowerPoint with animation live, or you can print it out into handouts and do PDFs. But either way, it's about giving presentations. And the reason we do PowerPoint presentation is because it is a lot of attention. But at the end of the day, if I talk for a whole hour nonstop, you will probably get bored and not pay attention all the time. So it's really helpful to have some points. Different teachers teach different ways. I use the whiteboard and I put the things I want to talk about on the board like I do it right now. Other people use PowerPoint presentations. The reason we have these PowerPoint presentations is to put the most important ideas on a visual display so people can refer to it and look at it when they need to. No, it's not always necessary for you to look at the PowerPoint. I prefer you to just listen to the speaker and then get the information that way, but it doesn't always work that way, right? So you've been to enough Zoom meetings by now, and I don't know if some people, I was just thinking you could just log in and turn the sound off and just leave the computer running. But if you really need to go back to look at if you want to get any information from the session, it wouldn't be helpful if you can actually know what was being discussed. So the point of PowerPoint presentation is a visual permanent information that people can either refer to during the presentation if you zone off, or if you can view it afterwards. So pitch decks are developed as a way to get people interested in your business. A lot of times when you talk to VC or investors, instead of them asking you, give me a business plan, they will just say, give me a pitch deck. Let me look at your pitch deck. And pitch decks, therefore, should be short and simple, visually pleasing to look at, but yet convey the information. It's sort of the visual representation of the elevator pitch that we did previously and you all worked on, because it's important to have the same, almost similar, if not identical information in there. But since you're putting it on a physical forum, on a PDF or on a PowerPoint presentation, you need to be more mindful of what information you include and be more accurate. It's one thing to say something by mistake in person because you can, once you said it, you can correct it later. But if you send something out, people will be referring to it. So I would take the pitch deck process a little bit more serious because it's more permanent. And then as you will see, I'm going to show a couple of examples of pitch decks today and as part of this class. And once you put something out there, and it's always going to be out there, and then people can refer to it later on. Sometimes you have to walk back the things that you said in the past. Sometimes you will look at what you presented earlier in the life cycle of your business and say, well, man, I wish I had never said that. But hopefully, if we do a good job of preparing, we can make a good presentation that can grab people's attention, that will convey our business idea, and we don't have to change too far from what we presented early on. All right, so oops, don't do that. No. Sorry, apologies. All right, so first I'm going to show you a YouTube presentation. This is an actual, as you will see, that I will show different versions of presentations, and these presentations are not always the initial presentations. What I do know is that it's reasonably credible. Like some of them are really credible, as in how original these presentations are. So for example, this one is actually in a securities filing for YouTube when they were raising money later on. This is not an initial presentation, but it is one. And you will see how simple it is because this only have 10 slides. We'll go through it in a second. So, of course, you guys are on YouTube right now. You use YouTube. You know what YouTube it is. I don't think they use this broadcast yourself moniker or slogan anymore. So you see how things change over time. First slide is company purpose. To become the primary outlet of user-generated video content on the internet and to allow anyone to upload, share, and browse this content. See, this is basically what we did as a core value and mission statement, right? So that's where it goes. They put a front and center and the faces. Video files are too large to email, and you know this is to be true. Video files are too large to host, and if you had any experience of hosting websites, you would know that was true as well. No standardization of video file formats. It's gotten a little bit easier now, but it was not. That if you send a movie file to somebody with a PC, they're not going to be able to open it. You will have to download the codecs and to be able to view it, and you might not get the quality you want, and sometimes people just don't bother. All right, and videos exist as isolated files. If you name it wrong, nobody will know what's in it. So what's the solution for YouTube? Conveniently, this is put on the same right on after it. So consumer will upload a video to YouTube. YouTube take care of serving the content to millions of viewers. This you're familiar with. YouTube's video encoding backend converts uploaded videos to Flash video. That's not true anymore. So they started with Flash video. Now they're doing MP4s, but in the beginning they took every single format they will accept and turn it into a format that's playable in the browser. And YouTube provides a community that connects users to videos, users to users, and video to videos. That's still true today. All right, so you see how they take existing technical problem at the time, which is it's really difficult to deal with videos, and they provide the solution. And the solution is still relevant and very efficient today, right? There are other companies that does the same thing now, but as you know, YouTube was the first really to go mainstream with this And then they follow up with market size. Conveniently, this is another existing consumer products. And I will peg this at maybe 15 years ago. Broadband internet in the home has finally reached critical mass, making the internet a viable alternative delivery mechanism or for videos. As you see, in this sense, I've asked you guys to come up with numbers, but when they did this filing and raised money at the time, because they're so ahead of the curve, there's really no reason and no accurate number they can put in there. So they didn't include any number in this pitch deck. However, they did describe adequately so people understand that there is a likely large market. As you see, the technology is cheap enough, broadband is everywhere and in many people's homes. So the market size is big enough and it is growing. They didn't bother, but they also couldn't have put on the accurate number of growth curves or how big the market is. But by describing it this way, and this is easily validated by anyone that follows the news at the time, then you will understand that it's going to be a very big business. And that's the goal of describing the market size. Obviously, if you had the numbers, if they were be able to say that 100 million households has high-speed internet and a broadband connection, then or 5 million people are making videos on a daily basis on their smartphones. If they could put some numbers like that in there, that would even bolster their case. But discuss the competition a little bit. You see these companies. Ourmedia.org. I don't even know if that still exists. I don't know what it is. Excuse me. Open Media Network. Also don't know what that is. Google Video. For most of you probably don't even realize that was a thing. So as it turned out, Google bought YouTube and turned YouTube into the Google Video replacement. And on the second line, Put File, Dailymotion, I think still around. Vimeo is certainly around, and as somewhat of a competitor to YouTube, they kind of pivoted a little bit in their strategy because YouTube got so big. And then further down, these are the more real practical and more operational information. So product development, they're going to build out a community, the open architecture, target markets, and then features currently in development. They didn't even include what the features are. How are they going to go about sales and distribution? They're going to take on advertising. They're going to do 4 paid distribution channel for promotional videos. And that, YouTube Red and Premium, I think they're still a thing, but not all, obviously not for premium features and charge viewers for premium content. So they're still following through with some of these business models, but one of the biggest models obviously is still advertising, right? That's from day one, and that's still apparent. They came from PayPal, and then the tech person is actually a CS graduate student at Stanford at the time. And then metrics. What's the metrics? They launched on June 11th, has already taken all previously existing competitors, and is now a dominant player in the space. Again, this is not, they did not actually put any numbers except for the fact they launched June 11th, but that shows you that they already acted on it. They actually launched the product and it's in existence. You can look it up at the time. You can look it up, and then they're doing better than competitors. So that's a basic pitch deck, but it's not too basic because this pitch deck, as I said in the beginning, is attached to a fundraising document filed with the Security Exchange Commission (SEC) as part of the YouTube's fundraising records. So this is actually the deck being included in the documents given to investors when investors put millions of dollars into YouTube, and see how simple that is. So you need to overthink it as long as the content is good. Obviously, nowadays, especially in early, and you don't have the kind of connection that with money just ready to throw at you, you might have to be a little bit more attractive with your designs, as I'll show you in the subsequent examples. But for the most part, the content is what really matters. You need to grab people with the attention of what you can do, and that's the most important. But again, let me just say that there are 9 slides in here. It covers the sections that we already worked on: the purpose, the mission, the problem, the solution, market size, competition, what the product looks like, and how do you plan on operate it, and the team. Right? That's pretty much it. All right, so that's YouTube deck. Next, we're gonna look at Uber's deck. No, actually, next let's look at Airbnb Deck. So this Airbnb Deck is a reproduction, as it says on the bottom. Oh, you can't see it. Hold on, let me scroll for a second. Actually, you cannot. There's a disclaimer on the bottom I'm trying to show you. There you go. It says the PowerPoint reproduction of an early Airbnb pitch deck via Business Insider. So I've this I borrowed from Business Insider to show you guys as a part of the class. So Airbnb and breakfast, Air bed and breakfast. So Airbnb, if you didn't know, was named B&B is named for bed and breakfast. It's Air bed and breakfast. I'm not exactly sure how the Air, it could be interpreted different ways, but basically it's a revolutionary or a step up of bed and breakfast services. And if you guys don't know what a bed and breakfast is, it's like a really niche motel or a very specialized hotel that you stay in many smaller places. So you don't stay in a chain hotel. You can stay at a bed and breakfast. Usually it's in someone's house or a very small hotel with a host that's a local that can give you more friendly, personal, individualized service than, say, a large hotel. So this one, there's for Airbnb, they didn't start off with a mission statement. They start off with a problem. The problem here, they identify 3 things: price, hotels, and no easy way to book a room with a local. So the first two problems is very relatable, right? Price, booking travel online. Hotels are usually pretty expensive, and the hotels leave you disconnected from the city and its culture, because hotels, like I said, if you want to go into a chain hotel, you're really staying in a format that's native to the hotel chain. So you're buying into the hotel's culture, not necessarily the local culture. But the third problem here is there's no easy way exists to book a room with a local or become a host. I would say that becoming a host is a problem to be solved because many, you might have had friends if you have your own place and the friends want to come stay with you and you will let them stay. Maybe they pay $20. Couch surfing was like that, right? But beyond the people there's no way for you to rent out your extra room in your house to make money. So that is a practical problem that needs solving, and no one was solving at the time. To book a room with a local, I'm not sure it was really that legitimate of a problem if you really think about it, because not many people want to go stay with strangers. Some people would, many people wouldn't. So at the outset, I'm not sure I buy into that the problem they really need to solve was to allow people to book room with the local. However, allowing people to make extra money by renting out their rooms is a problem that everybody has and everybody will love solved. And once we have this capacity of rooms, when hotels gets filled up or when the hotel's too expensive, then people will look at other options. And that's why users who might not otherwise consider to rent from locals will look at Airbnb to rent rooms with locals. So the solution is a web platform where users can rent out their spaces to host traveler, to one, save money, two, to make money for locals, and to share culture. Again, I don't feel that the third thing was really strong, but that's what they decided that should that's a problem they're trying to solve, and it worked together with the other two problems. So ultimately, obviously, I'm talking like they don't know what they're doing, but obviously they become super successful, as you all know. So the next, they do have a market validation. This is their market size. Here, I think because where they were at the time, they have to compete with hotels. Unlike YouTube, who really didn't have too many competitors, they can just say, "Well, we're doing this," and just believe us. They have the Airbnb had to validate their market a bit because there are hotels and there's Craigslist, as you'll see in a second. And so they said on temporary housing sites like couchsurfing.com, which I don't know if it still exists, but there's 630,000 listings on couchsurfing.com, and on Craigslist over here on the right side, there were 17,000 listings during a week on San Francisco and New York City Craigslist. That means people are posting their housing, their temporary housing for rent. But I'm not sure if they're posting individual rooms or just like week to week apartments, or they do I don't know for sure, but this is the market. But these are postings. These are only supply, not on the demand side. So they don't really know what the demand is like yet. So then they go on to market size. So the validation is to show you that there is a market, and the market size is what they estimate as the number of the market that they can reach. As you can see, that on the left, they said all the trips books is $1.9 billion. I don't really know what that means. Maybe they mean all the hotel rooms over 1 year in all over the world, maybe. Budget and online trips, serviceable available market. This is $532 million. That's roughly 1/4 of the total market. So I guess they decided that the budget and online market is 1/4 or 25% of the total market. Again, there's no information to say that that's the right estimate. But like I said to you guys before, is if you don't know for sure and there's no adequate information, just make a guess. They guess that 1 out of 4 people will go online to book a hotel room and look for budget rooms. That seems reasonable. I have no way to really dispute that. So let's live with that. And then again, the market share trips with Airbnb, they took the $532 million and decided that their market is $10 million. If you do the math really quickly, it is about 2%. So they decided their market penetration is 2%. It is actually 2% if you time 532 million to 2%. So, in the previous class and video, I said we should use 1%, But, Airbnb is comfortable, so they use 2% to make it $10 million. It looks pretty nice, right? So, by the way, all these numbers are guessworks. Maybe the $1.9 billion is not a guesswork, but the 500 million most definitely is, and then 10 million most definitely is. But because you do it in a way that's reasonable and it appear to be somewhat conservative, then, people will give you the benefit of the doubt. If you were to say that there's $500 million spent on online and budget trips every year, but we're going to get out of the gate and take 50% market, then I'm going to be skeptical. How can you start a company and take over 20% of the market? If I say I'm going to start a company and take 2% of the market, that sounds so much more acceptable, because if I go on and shout it from the rooftop and 2 out of 100 people listens to me and buy stuff from me, that sounds like a reasonable approximation. That's why I like using 1%, because I think 1% is really conservative enough for people to be believable. So then they go by product, Airbnb. You can search by city, review the listings, and book it. This is pretty, you guys all know this, so we don't have to cover it too much. This is how they make money. They do put out their business model. 10 million trips with Airbnb. They charge a $20 average fee at 3 nights per average, and that will lead to a revenue of $200 million in 3 years. That looks really good. I don't know how true that number is, and I will have to take out another piece of paper and write it down and do the calculation to see if it's really big. But I don't know. That sounds like a really good number, right? 10 million trips, and I guess 10 million trips and then $20 fees, and that equals to $200 million. It looks right. 10% commission. It looks right. I don't know if it really is right, but it looks right. So maybe that's the point, right? It just have to look right. And market adoption. This goes into more detail, how they're going to go about selling their product and go do events, partnerships, and Craigslist. One of the things they did was they posted their postings on Craigslist to try to take customers from Craigslist to Airbnb. If Craigslist allows it, I don't see anything wrong with it. Just be inventive, think outside of the box like that. Use somebody else's platform to drive business for yourself. Just like people starting YouTube channels and try to sell stuff on YouTube, and using another platform to generate customers for yourself. And here's the competition chart. I really dislike these competition charts because it's really kind of not intuitive to me. But if you really have to understand, these are the accesses. If you're higher, you're affordable. On the right is online. On below is expensive, and to the left is offline. So you see these rentobi.com and Vrbo. These are offline and expensive. And Airbnb is affordable and online. Hotel is online but less affordable. So you always position your company. You always make a chart and place your company on the upper right side. You figure out 2 factors that's most favorable to you and compare everyone else behind you. That's why I found these charts to be not really that useful, because who would make or maybe that tip for you, is that don't ever make a pitch deck where your company is not at the upper right corner in however you compare it. If you have a competitor that does something better than you, do not use that as an access to compare. Only compare when you are better than every one of your competitors, right? So in a way, that's kind of useless, because you're always going to be the best in your own comparison. And then here they list out their competitive advantages. This is more, as opposed to the YouTube deck, you see that this is much more complex. They're going to say they're first to market. They're all, you can read it on your own if you're interested. But we don't really, at this point, at the very, very early, prior to launch stage, I don't need that much information. You just need to really get your business idea out. All right. So that's the Airbnb deck. And next, everybody knows Uber. So I'm going to cover Uber for a second. So most of you probably didn't know, Uber started as Uber Cab and as a next generation car service. What? A car service? I thought Uber was for the masses. Well, the first idea was to be a cab service, because Uber got started as a alternative to cabs. Remember, one of the earlier things that I talk about how to generate business ideas. Either you come up with a new solution like YouTube, or you make an existing solution better. And these two examples, Airbnb and cabs and Uber, mostly, especially Uber, is to make existing solution to existing problem better, right? So people need to go places, but public transit doesn't take you everywhere. That's the problem. And the solution is cabs. We take cabs. But cabs as a solution have its own problems because here, hailing is done by hand or by phone. I don't know if you guys had the experience of looking for a cab, but sometimes when you in a city that you don't know and you try to walk around for blocks at a time trying to find cabs, I've had experiences where I walked to the destination because I couldn't find a cab. So, and then if you're not from that city and you don't know which cab company to call, you might have to go online and look for a cab company. You might call a cab and wait half an hour. You might as well just walk, right? That's why Uber. You think about it this way, Uber is such a convenient replacement for cabs because they made a solution which is on-demand rides much better than cabs because cabs were the original on-demand rides, on-demand transportation. And then also, most of the cabs are dirty, aging, and inefficient. They use inefficient gas cars. They use a lot of gas, and they're dirty. They're old, and they're just not all that comfortable to be in. And then you don't communicate with the driver directly. Like you say here, you have to use a radio dispatch. So that means you call a number, you ask for a cab. The cab company dispatcher calls their cab drivers and then sends somebody to you. And you never know if they're coming or not, how long it will take, and you have no direct line of communication with the cab driver. And then second, this is the supply side of a problem, is that it costs so much money to run a cab, especially in large cities like New York City and Philadelphia. In New York City, a medallion costs $500,000 or more, or more. What is a medallion, you might ask, if you don't know? In order to run a taxi cab, you have to own a medallion, which is a license, and there's a limited number of licenses available. So if you're in New York City, you want to own a cab, you have to get access to a medallion. There's only so many medallions to go around, so you have to buy a medallion or rent one from someone, and the medallion itself costs more than $500,000 at the time. It's probably it was the highest I've seen is probably $1 million per medallion for you to be a cab driver. Think about that. But the driver makes 31,000 largely because medallions cost so much. So you have to invest that money into even running the business. So now they put it in green. Digital hail can make it with the drivers directly, and you can see when they come and go. Right? That's a good solution. So and they originally thought one-click car service. There's purely a replacement for car service. But as it turned out, Uber, as it stands right now, is probably even a replacement for public transit. So I'm gonna go through this deck is pretty long, so I will skip many of the operational stuff. These will be posted as examples, so if you want to look at them, I started with YouTube because it's the most simple one, but you can look at these other decks as well just to see how comprehensive they do get. So the more information you have, the more you can put in your decks. But at the end of the day, for us, something like the Uber, like the YouTube deck with the YouTube kind of information, but make it look better like an Airbnb and this Uber one. So you see how it's pretty long. You can see on your own, and they did a lot of study. So if you have all these information, obviously put it in a deck. But for the projects that you guys are working on, you don't have that information, and that's okay. If we were on campus, I would have have you guys do more of it, but right now let's just use what we already have, so you don't have to include most of this. We did a lot of work on the business concept, so let's focus on business concept and the market size and the prior information. Right, so and at the end they show the progress today. You see ubercab.com reserved the SMS code so they can send out text messages. They also filed for a trademark in California company, the registered company. They applied for a iPhone development license. They didn't actually develop the app yet, but they applied for a license to develop it. They have a bank account. They have 5 advisors and 15 clients now recruited. 5 advisors could just be 5 friends or their professors. and 15 clients could just be each other. They filed a provisional patent, which if you take my IP law class, you will know that it costs $95. And is it 95? I think it's still $95, and it you can do it in a day. So it's not really that complicated. To do it well, you need to spend more money and time, but anyone can do a provisional patent in a day. Not very good, but you can do it. And then next, they want to buy 3 cars. So they want to have their own cars to use that as a test case for the app, which they have yet to develop. And they want to run a pilot. So a lot of these companies got started like this, have a concept of an idea and put together a pitch deck and a plan. And then if they get the money, they will follow through with the pitch deck and the plan and then try to see if it works. And if they don't get the money, they move on to the next thing. So a lot of startup serial entrepreneurs operate like that. And I do that. I have an idea, and then I'll just go sit down and develop a deck and develop a plan, and I'll go pitch it. If I get traction, if people like it, if I think that's workable, if somebody wants to invest money into it, then I will move on to the next step and actually develop the business and develop the product. But if there's no traction, if no one likes it, then I go on to the next thing. It's kind of exciting like that. I tell you, it would be much more exciting if I come up with a Uber kind of like idea, but it's a hit and miss, and 99% miss, and hopefully 1% hit, and I'm still working on that hit. But you guys should go and try out and just come up with ideas and put it into decks and pitch it, and people like it. You never know, right? Could be the next Uber. All right, and next I have a LinkedIn pitch deck here as well. As you see on this LinkedIn deck, this looks like an official deck, and it has a date of August 2004, and the title of the deck is Series B, August 2004. So if you can I produce other equity fundraising videos. If you're interested in watching and learning more about equity financing, I'm not going to require it as a part of doing this. But Series B is generally the 3rd or 4th round of financing the company undergo. They start off with a very small round to get started, and a larger round to develop the product and a launch to the market. Then they do a Series A round, like ABC A round, to get money to grow, and Series B to usually go national generally. So Series B might be a 10 to 15 to $20 million round. Series A is usually somewhere around between $1 and $2 million. So the presentation you're looking at, this LinkedIn presentation, is basically the deck that they use to raise maybe around $5 to $20 million. And so because we are not talking at that stage yet, I'm not going to go through this in detail. I include this for you to use as a reference to see how pitch decks get more complicated the further you go on with your business, right? So I'm just going to simply scroll it. There's still a problem and solution approach to even this kind of deck. So the problem is there is no effective, trusted way for professionals to find and transact with each other online. And the further stating the problem, so selecting service providers from Yellow Pages fails. If you guys still remember what Yellow Pages are, it's a phone book that let you know where businesses are, or where are the businesses. So that doesn't work. Selecting employees from resume databases fails. You don't know how true that is, and maybe you do. When you get to run your own business and trying to hire people from resume collects or from online databases, it's horrendous. Last year I posted a position and I got more than 500 resumes in one day. So it's really hard. And reaching professionals, and not just like workers, professionals through directories. I don't even know if professional directories really still exist. So that's really hard. You know how easy it is for me to find, if I want to find a labor and employment lawyer, for example, I go on my LinkedIn, I type in labor and employment lawyer, and I'll come up with a list of 20 of them. And many of them I know, and some of them I know through someone else. That's what LinkedIn's solution is. So they do in detail talk about what their solution is. And here on this slide, they talk about their mission statements and core value, basically, right? So the first mover is critical to revenue, and they describe their priority. So their priority is the network, right? But because LinkedIn, here you go again, another one of those marketing charts where LinkedIn as the upper right hand corner. Everybody else is not as good, obviously. So as you see, LinkedIn, because this is a Series B round, they have raised millions of dollars before that and had a business already operating. So they have a lot more information to put into a deck. So as you can see, the same thing, a company presentation go from very simple to a little bit more complex, like the Airbnb and the Uber ones, to really complex when you have a history of business. And I'm just going through quickly. You should download this and just look it through quickly too, just to see what it's like. And for those of you, I hope all of you are on LinkedIn, and if you're not, you should be on LinkedIn. But this is what LinkedIn is, and it's a gigantic business with many facets, and you can learn a bit more about LinkedIn. But it really at this point got really complex. That's why they needed to raise millions of dollars more to grow it even bigger, because at the end of the day, toward the end on slide 34 here, you have the business and tech team. You can see that at this point they already have a whole executive team and has a technical team, and that's why. And so all the millions of dollars they raised up to this point was went toward paying people and hiring people, building a team. And at this point they're looking for more money so they can hire more people and build out more and spend more money on features. And let me see. Yep. So, but at the end of the day, it's still focused on the solution to the problem they described. Find and connect people you need through the people you already trust. And they don't even use that slogan much, if at all. But you look at this, and this still, 16 years later, this still encompasses and embodies what LinkedIn is about. So the challenge for us, the early entrepreneurs looking at starting our own business, is to build out a direction. That's why we're doing so much work thinking about our businesses and refining it before we even start. Is that what you want? Is you want to start a business with a vision that you can stick to even 16 years or 25 years down the road, like LinkedIn is, because how they operate changes, people change, technology change, but the core problem and core solution they provide does not change. And here it still stayed the same. And that's what LinkedIn is about. And you should learn from this. So the companies. All right. So these are the four pitch decks I wanted to go through today, and they will be available for you to look at and as a reference to develop your own. So now I'm going to turn to some of the questions, or I see one question here. So the new assignment is to make a pitch deck, obviously, for the project that you guys are working on. And this pitch deck can be worked on together or can be worked on separately. It depends on if you're working individually or in a group. If you're working in a group, I would suggest that you assign different sections, because there are 4 or 5 sections, and 2 individual group members, and then you guys can put it together. I would just suggest that one person take the charge of deciding on a style before you assign in different pages, or work on pass a PowerPoint around, or if you work on Google, you can use Google presentation, whatever. I never used it before, but you can collaborate, but make sure that you are using the same look, basically. So let me write here. So try to use consistent look. And then I will discuss the business pitch deck next. I would discuss the business plan next week, and I will put it on the forum on what needs to be completed. And I will just make this due at the same time as the business plan, because I realized that we have another week and a half left this week, the rest of this week and next week. So they will just both be due by the end of next week. I will like for you to present it. So ask you guys to present it, I can set up a remote meeting for you to present it, or if it's hard for people to do it technically, you can then record your presentation. You can just read over it, really. I just want you to practice presenting it, because it was a good exercise, a good experience in class. So I would like that still be the case. So I will work out with individual teams or individuals on how to do it, and let me put in next week's forum the various ways you can go about presenting it, and I would undertake the responsibility of collecting everything and then combine it, so at least everybody still get to see it. And I want to keep a record of it because it's a part of what you learn and what you get to do, and that's part of the curriculum. So I want to keep a record of it, which I keep a record of all the other ones from other semesters. So I will put these examples available to you guys this week, and I will also put a blank template with the sections already there. So all you have to do is go and fill out the pages. So I will tell you, it's basically going to be, mission, the core values of mission, problem, solution, product, and an operational plan, and a team, and a market size. Right, that's pretty much it. So I will write that out, and I will make that available along with these template PowerPoints. And then on Thursday this week, we will still do a Q&A session like last week. So I will put the information in. So if I don't want to keep emailing people getting bombarded with email. So just go onto the forum section. I will put the information on the session. Last week, I did 2 different sessions, and I had to close the meeting down and open it back up and with a new access code, just so that we won't end up with Zoom bombing kind of thing. So I will post the appropriate access session in the forum, like everything else I require from you. Any other questions? And as always, if you have any questions after this video, or if you're viewing this video on replay and you have questions, just go to the forum, ask there. I will answer on the forum so everyone can see. All right, let me so yeah, I look forward to you. Let me type out this. So I'm writing on the chat. If there are no questions, I will end this session. And if you have other questions, please put it on the forum. It is due by the end of the next week, along with the business plan. So this will be part A of the final, and part B of the final will be the business plan. I will spell it out as an assignment on Moodle. Also, if you ever have to, because these are submissions for the course, if you need to know when it's due, you can always go on Moodle and see what this is part of the final, as I said. Yes, this is part of the final. It's part of the final. So yeah, so part of the final. Next week, Tuesday, I will go over the business. I will go over the business plan sections, and then go over the template and the sample, and then you guys will work on a business plan and submit it. So this week, PowerPoint. Next week, business plan, and submit it together. And then I will give guidance on how to submit the presentation part of the presentation. All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoy looking through those pitch decks, and I look forward to looking at the pitch decks that you guys are going to develop. I hope they're all going to look wonderful and great, and be creative, and be yourself. And I will talk to you guys on either on the forum or on Thursday. Again, I will post the access information on the forum prior to the session, and you guys can call in to the session and ask questions if you need. All right. I will have a great rest of the day and enjoy this spring weather where I am. And stay safe and stay well. And see you guys soon.